Have you ever booked a ticket to New York only to realize you meant the state, not the city? Or sent a package to Washington and wondered why it ended up thousands of miles away? Believe it or not, one name can open the door to four completely different worlds. From the neon skyline of Manhattan to the misty peaks of Mount Rainier, and from Capitol Hill's marble halls to the rolling vineyards of the Finger Lakes. Each New York and Washington tells its own epic story. Buckle up, because we're about to unravel the mysteries behind two names and four unforgettable destinations. New York, the name that embraces both a city and a state, tracing its origins, evolution, and contemporary significance. In 1664, the English seized the Dutch colony of New Amsterdam and renamed it New York after the Duke of York, James Stuart. That name soon extended to the surrounding province, today's New York State. So that one historic act left us with both New York City and New York State sharing a single, illustrious title. What began as an homage to English royalty has grown into two of America's most iconic, yet distinct, places. Origin of the name: the Duke of York. New York derives its name from James Stuart, Duke of York and Albany, younger brother of King Charles II of England. In 1664, Charles II granted him proprietary rights over the former Dutch territory of New Netherland. After English forces under Colonel Richard Nicolls took New Amsterdam without major resistance, they renamed it New York in his honor. Shortly after renaming the settlement, the English extended New York to encompass the wider province, from the Delaware River to the Connecticut border. Thus, what was first a city name became the title of one of the 13 colonies, later the 11th state to ratify the U.S. Constitution in 1788. Dutch beginnings. Founded as New Amsterdam around 1624 by Dutch colonists, the settlement served as the capital of New Netherland and a hub for the fur trade. Chartered as a city in 1653 under its Dutch name, it grew rapidly on Manhattan Island's strategic harbor. In 1664, Stuyvesant surrendered to the English, who renamed it New York, and it was briefly New Orange before reverting to New York in 1674. By independence, New York City had become a commercial powerhouse and even served as the U.S. capital from 1785 to 1790. Today, NYC is a global finance and culture epicenter, hosting the NYSE and NASDAQ and boasting a metro GDP over $2.16 trillion, larger than most countries. Its consolidation in 1898 fused Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and Staten Island into the world's largest city by population density. The province of New York saw its name formalized under British rule and transitioned to statehood on July 26, 1788, becoming the 11th state. Stretching over 54,500 sq miles, New York State spans Adirondack Peaks, Finger Lakes vineyards, and the flat farmlands of western New York. Major cities beyond NYC include Albany, the capital, Buffalo, Rochester, and Syracuse, each an economic center in its own right. While NYC drives finance, media, and technology, upstate regions contribute manufacturing, higher education, agriculture, and tourism, making New York one of the nation's most economically varied states. Niagara Falls tourism, Adirondack outdoor recreation, and Finger Lakes wineries all feed into a state GDP exceeding $2 trillion. The single name New York bridges two distinct entities, a global city that never sleeps, and a vast state of mountains, lakes, and small towns. Both owe their shared title to a 17th century English duke, yet each has forged its own identity. Next time you book a flight or send a postcard, remember to specify city or state, because New York might mean very different things to different people. Washington, D.C. and Washington State share a name and a tribute to the same man, George Washington, but in almost every other respect they couldn't be more different. Let's explore their stories, their landscapes, their economies, and the identities that each has forged. George Washington. As America's Revolutionary War hero and first president, his name was everywhere. In 1790, Congress established a federal district for the nation's capital and, informally, everyone called it Washington. reinforcing the legacy. Almost a century later, when the Northwest Territory applied for statehood, leaders chose Washington again, this time for the 42nd state admitted in 1889. Both owe their names to the same founding father, but that's where the similarity ends. To balance North versus South, the new capital was carved from Virginia and Maryland along the Potomac River. Pierre L'Enfant's vision, a grand, European-style plan of boulevards, public squares, and ceremonial avenues leading to the capital. White House, U.S. Capitol, Supreme Court, National Mall, with its monuments and Smithsonian museums. Roughly 700,000 residents in a dense, 68 sq mi district, plus over 1 million commuters daily. Diverse communities with clusters of embassies, think tanks, lobbyists, and federal agencies. Civil service, defense contracting, international diplomacy. Kennedy Center, jazz clubs and U Street corridor. Growing tech startup culture spurred by research institutions. D.C. residents pay federal taxes but have only a non-voting delegate in Congress. A city that's also a district, lacking statehood yet symbolizing national unity. Part of Oregon Territory, then separated and named for George Washington. Admitted as the 42nd state, at the tip of the continent. Olympic Peninsula rainforests, Puget Sound fjords, and the tech-driven metropolis of Seattle. Snow-capped volcanoes, Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens, forming a dramatic spine. Semi-arid plains, wheat fields, and fertile valleys famed for apples, cherries, and wine grapes. Amazon, Microsoft, and dozens of startups anchor a $700 billion-plus economy. Ports in Seattle and Tacoma, Boeing's historic aircraft manufacturing. Apples, hops, timber, and hydropower from Columbia River dams. Seattle's coffee culture, music legacy, grunge, jazz, craft breweries. Hiking, skiing, sailing, an ethos of environmental stewardship. Tribes like the Makah, Suquamish, Yakama, whose cultures predate statehood by millennia. A name, worlds apart. Washington, D.C. Washington State. Location East Coast, Potomac River Pacific Northwest, Pacific Ocean Coast. Size 68 square miles, 177 square kilometers. 71,362 square miles, 184,827 square kilometers. Population 700,000, daytime, 1M, 7.9 million. Governance Federal District, no full Congress seat, full state government, 2 U.S. senators. Economy Government, policy, lobbying technology, aerospace, agriculture. Landscape Urban core, monuments mountains, forests, farms, cities. Booking hotels or shipping packages. Mix UPS between D.C. and state can cost days of delays. A Washingtonian in Seattle cherishes mountaintops. A Washingtonian in D.C. debates national policy. One Washington memorializes a founding father. The other carries his name across wild, untamed frontiers. Next time you hear Washington, pause and ask, capital or evergreen state? 2 namesakes, 2 stories, 1 shared honor, and 2 very different futures. For destinations, 2 names, endless stories. As our journey draws to a close, remember that a single name can open the door to vastly different worlds. When you hear New York, it could mean the glittering skyline of Manhattan, where dreams are chased beneath neon lights, or it could point to a serene expanse of rolling hills and glacial lakes far to the north. And when someone tells you they're in Washington, they might be navigating the corridors of power on Capitol Hill or hiking mist-shrouded trails in the shadow of Mount Rainier. For destinations, 2 names, and each one brimming with its own legends, challenges, and triumphs. New York City pulses with ceaseless energy, a beacon of commerce and culture. New York State unfolds a tapestry of small towns, vineyards, and mountain vistas that whisper of America's natural grandeur. Washington, D.C. stands as both a monument to democracy and a living, breathing city of neighborhoods, while Washington State stretches from rugged Pacific shores to high desert plateaus, forging new frontiers in technology and agriculture. These are more than geographic coordinates. They are chapters in an ever-evolving story about identity, ambition, and resilience. So next time you plan a trip, send a letter, or share a tale, pause to ask, which New York? Which Washington? Because behind every familiar name lies an endless story waiting to be discovered. Thank you for joining us on Fancy Fact, where every place has a past, every name holds a secret, and every visit becomes a new adventure. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to keep exploring the world's most fascinating dualities. We'll see you in a next video. Thank you for watching.